Rabies might be one of the most lethal diseases humanity has ever encountered, because once symptoms start, survival becomes almost impossible. This isn't a rare condition. It isn't something from the distant past. It hasn't disappeared. It's still here. But what makes rabies truly terrifying isn't just the death toll. It's how quietly the virus works, how invisible it stays. A small bite, a minor scratch, sometimes so insignificant you barely register it at all. And yet, hidden inside that wound could be a virus already moving, slowly, silently, toward the brain. Rabies spreads primarily through the saliva of infected animals. In the United States, the virus most often comes from bats, raccoons, skunks, and foxes. But here's where rabies starts to behave differently from almost every other virus you know. After a bite, it doesn't rush into the bloodstream. It waits. Often, the virus stays near the muscle tissue for a period of time, doing very little while the person feels completely normal. No fever, no pain, no warning signs at all. Which is exactly what makes it so dangerous. Because while the body appears perfectly fine on the outside, the virus is already searching for something far more valuable than blood. The nervous system, the body's entire communication network. To understand why rabies is so deadly, you first need to understand what the nervous system actually does. Think of your nerves as biological electrical cables. Every second of your life, they're sending signals between your brain and the rest of your body. Movement, breathing, swallowing, memory, fear, muscle control. Everything depends on those signals working correctly. Most viruses travel through the blood. Rabies doesn't. Instead, it attaches itself directly to nerve cells. Then it starts moving, from one neuron to the next, slowly climbing deeper into the nervous system, like an intruder quietly navigating the body's own communication highways. And the truly unsettling part, this process can take weeks, sometimes months. During that entire time, a person may go about their life completely normally, going to work, spending time with family, sleeping soundly, with no idea that a virus is steadily making its way toward their brain. And once it finally arrives, everything changes. When rabies reaches the brain, the infection shifts into a different category entirely. The virus begins triggering inflammation throughout the nervous system. Signals inside the brain grow distorted, unstable, and this is when the first symptoms finally surface. Fever, headache, weakness, a creeping sense of confusion. But very quickly, those symptoms become something far more alarming. Severe anxiety, sudden aggression, hallucinations, violent muscle spasms. The brain is no longer processing the world normally. It's losing control of the body's most critical functions, one by one. And unlike diseases that attack a single organ, rabies targets the very system responsible for running the entire body. Movement, breathing, behavior, emotion. Even basic reflexes begin to fail. At this stage, the disease starts affecting something most of us never think twice about: swallowing. And that's what leads to one of the most haunting symptoms in all of medical history: hydrophobia, the fear of water. But that name is misleading. Hydrophobia has made rabies one of the most feared diseases throughout recorded human history. But most people misunderstand what's actually happening. Patients aren't simply afraid of water. What's occurring is far more physical and far more disturbing than ordinary fear. As rabies continues damaging the nervous system, the muscles involved in swallowing start reacting violently to liquid. Even the act of taking a drink can trigger painful, uncontrollable spasms deep in the throat. The body essentially starts fighting against one of its own most fundamental survival instincts. Swallowing becomes difficult, then painful, then nearly impossible. And eventually, even the sight of water, or just the sound of it, can set off waves of panic and involuntary muscle contractions. Imagine being desperately thirsty, while your own nervous system physically won't let you drink. That is the reality rabies patients face. Meanwhile, the virus keeps spreading. Breathing becomes irregular, muscles lose coordination, the mind continues to deteriorate. The body isn't just sick at this point, it's entering a full neurological collapse. And by the time things have progressed this far, modern medicine has very limited tools to stop it. Rabies carries one of the highest fatality rates of any infectious disease ever recorded. According to both the CDC and the World Health Organization, once clinical symptoms appear, rabies is considered nearly always fatal. And the reason comes down to one thing: timing. By the time symptoms emerge, the virus has typically already spread deep into the nervous system and brain. At that point, the window for intervention has essentially closed. This is why post-exposure treatment matters so much. If someone receives medical care quickly after a potential exposure, before symptoms ever develop, the disease can usually be stopped in its tracks. But once the neurological phase begins, the situation becomes a different problem entirely. And this is what makes rabies so uniquely terrifying. Not because it spreads the fastest, not because it infects the most people, but because it can move silently through the body for weeks, sometimes months, while leaving almost no trace. A person can feel completely healthy, while the virus is already traveling through their nervous system, already closing in on the brain. That hidden progression, that invisible countdown, is what has kept rabies among the most feared diseases in human history. Rabies reveals something deeply unsettling about the human body. A virus doesn't need to destroy you quickly to be deadly. Sometimes, the most dangerous pathogens are the ones that move slowly, quietly, the ones that know exactly how to exploit the very systems keeping you alive. Rabies turns the nervous system, the body's most essential communication network, into its own private highway toward the brain. And once enough damage accumulates, the body begins losing control of its most basic functions: breathing, swallowing, movement, behavior, consciousness itself. What begins as something as small and forgettable as a bite can eventually become a complete neurological breakdown. That's what makes rabies so dangerous even now. Not because we don't understand it, not because medicine is powerless, but because timing is everything. And by the time the body finally signals that something is wrong, it is almost always too late. The human body runs on systems most people never think about. And some diseases know exactly how to use those systems against us. Quick knowledge, complex science. Explained simply,